Every year, in the month of June, the rains come to Agumbe. The skies darken and moisture-laden clouds roll in. The residents of Agumbe, human or otherwise, have no water shortage worries. Agumbe is one of the wettest places in the country. It receives a whopping 7,500 millimeters of rain a year. The forests and meadows soak up the first showers until they have quenched their thirst. Then the forest ponds, depleted during the summer months, begin to deepen and overflow. Small streams are formed. These empty into rivulets, and soon the forest creatures know that the monsoon has arrived. Not all the plants and animals here consider the rain a blessing. Large trees are brought crashing down, unable to withstand the onslaught of wind and water. This crab's burrow, at the edge of a forest meadow, will undoubtedly flood, forcing its tenant to search for new, drier living quarters. Some animals, like this millipede, seem indifferent to the falling rain. Others, however, like this praying mantis and these amorous stick insects, can do little but wait for the beating rain to pass. In an Agumbe monsoon, everything gets wet. There are, however, plenty of residents that anticipate the coming of the monsoon and revel in its arrival. Fungi are the first to signal the increasing moisture levels. Many different kinds emerge on the forest floor or on the barks of trees. But in the animal kingdom, it is the invertebrates that herald the coming of the rains. Many begin the move to higher ground. Others set about the task of fertilizing eggs that depend on the rains to hatch. On cue, other creatures from the forests and meadows begin their preparations for the coming monsoons, and soon the newly formed network of water bodies attracts arboreal, terrestrial, and aquatic creatures, all ready to indulge in this monsoon madness. In the forest thickets, the canopy-dwelling Malabar tree toads begin their annual journey from the tops of the trees to the forest floor. This will be a singular 2-day journey made very specifically at this time of the first rain. Similarly, the brown tree frogs also make their cameo appearances, their mating rituals triggered by these first few showers. The better-known Malabar gliding frog, mascot of the amphibians in the southern Western Ghats, also joins the caravan. These incredibly camouflaged amphibians don't actually make it all the way down to the pools of water on the ground. They are tree dwellers and remain so even in this time of revelry. Their carefully designed foam nests are strategically placed above puddles and ditches. The newly hatched tadpoles will fall into the waters below to live out the first stage of their metamorphic lives as entirely aquatic animals before making their way back to the trees as adults. The rains in Agumbe are so abundant that this particular pair is in no hurry to get their eggs to the water's edge. Instead, they sleep off the previous night's celebrations in each other's arms and wait for nightfall. This beautiful specimen, the endemic Ramanella, is a semi-arboreal species and yet has been photographed here nestled beneath the meadow grass. Its vocalization can be heard distinctly amidst the nightly amphibian cacophony that sweeps across the landscape. So what is it that brings all these tree and forest-dwelling creatures down to the ground to join the terrestrial and aquatic residents of Agumbe? It is the water. As the forest ponds and streams overflow their banks, a multitude of tiny rivulets drain the excess water into the grassland meadows. The meadows become inundated with water, deeper and deeper, until what was but a few hours ago a relatively dry landscape has now become an underwater world replete with diving beetles, turtles, and fish. The most ubiquitous specimen in the flooded meadows is the versatile golden frog. On any given night, these animals can be seen calling for mates, mating with mates, or hanging suspended in the shallow waters above their recently laid egg clusters. But the golden frogs share this watery space with an assortment of other creatures. There is the Indian black turtle, a species not easy to come by in these vast waterways. The catfish, a rather unexpected sight in a flooded meadow, and yet one of the first to make an appearance in this shifting waterscape. A variety of crabs, and the strange snakehead, which breathes through gills as well as suprabranchial organs and can sometimes be seen hopping about on land in an attempt to move from one body of water to another. In the deepening, faster moving streams, a quieter transformation is taking place. A number of freshwater flora are revived after spending many months wilting in semi-dry stream beds. This vegetation, along with fallen detritus, provides both food and shelter to a number of freshwater fauna. At the water's surface, fishing spiders crouch on fallen logs, waiting to ambush anything that might pass by. Water skaters drift along, and damselflies seek out suitable submerged vegetation for their eggs. Beneath the rushing, cascading surface, a number of fish species begin a long and arduous journey upriver. This too is a short-lived migration, and a few days after the first showers, these same fish can be seen returning downriver. Many thousands will never make it, ending up in nets, or worse, blown to death by dynamite fishing. In slower moving streams and large stagnant pools, one often sees unusually large black tadpoles swimming in clusters amidst the vegetation. These are tadpoles of the bicolor frog, and as their name suggests, these tadpoles have two color phases, black during the day and at night a translucent beige that exposes their poison glands. The adults have bright red eyes and occasionally play dead to evade predators. Back on the ground, in the parts not fully inundated by water, the male Indian toad changes its attire from brown to bright yellow in anticipation of the evening ahead. Large numbers of toads cluster together in an event of explosive breeding, often forming mating balls. The evening's festivities result in necklaces of eggs entangled in vegetation, carpeting the edges of puddles and muddy pools. At a different trophic level, the snakes in the forest around Agumbe also welcome the activity that comes with the monsoons. This vine snake adopts a more flexible diet during the leaner summer months. But for the months of June to August, it can afford to indulge its more selective taste buds. The same is true for the Malabar and hump-nosed pit vipers. Each of these myriad varied creatures is here at this very special time of the year because of the water. Every one of them is inextricably linked, directly or indirectly, to the coming of the rain and the corresponding flurry of activity. Fishing birds benefit from the increase in aquatic fauna. The song of the whistling thrush can be heard echoing through the forest. Mammals, reptiles, amphibians, birds, fish, insects, pretty much all life forms of every shape and size rely upon this most vital of resources. If by 2025 the water demands of the human species have resulted in two-thirds of our own kind struggling to find this resource, then what can be said of the millions of species that rely upon it as much as we do but do not have the voice to say so? Human ingenuity and all our technical advancements can potentially provide some solutions to the problem of finding and delivering suitable drinking water to mankind. But what of creatures that need clean water to breed? What of animals that require clean water to begin and continue a life cycle that determines the survival of their species? With our own impending struggles for water, this is a colossal conundrum that we have not even begun to address.